Well, hello, everybody. How are y'all today? Fabulous seeing you here. Thank you for stopping in. The bus is about to leave the station. Yep, got that, got that. So, hey, we're good to go. Hello, everybody in the chat room. How are you, Robert V? So, day off, man, I can dig that. Where I'm at, we're having the perfect weather. I was out laying brick this morning, so it was beautiful. Nina, how are you? Good to see you. CJ, Deborah Sloan, how are you, darling? And all the rest of you good folks. Super Galactic, what's up? Yeah, that was a good show yesterday. Yeah, it was deep. We're going to get into some more of it. It's a subject that you just can't do just an hour or two, because when you really get into it, really dig into the weeds, wow. So speaking favor over us all, nothing missing, nothing broken. Yeah, and this is the vampiric realm. I have said this, and I have said this, when it came to me, however long ago, that this is the death realm. You think about the topic we're going to do, the rite of drinking blood, why religious and non-religious rituals drink human blood. It's for the supernatural power. As we taught in Sunday school, there is power, wonderful working power in the blood of the Lamb, right? It is said that the saints will be bathed in the blood of the Lamb of Jesus Christ, right? Speaking of rite, here's an interesting thing when you look at the meaning of it. Rite, usually a religious ceremony with a set of fixed words and action. You have to go through an initiation rite before you become a full member. Another one, this is from Merriam-Webster's, a prescribed form or manner governing the words or actions of a ceremony. The ceremonial practice of a church or group of churches. Another one is a division of Christian church using a distinctive liturgy. So you look at all the occult, and as I pull back out of here, I'm going, okay, baby. This is some weird stuff. I mean, wow. I mean, that's all you can say as I get myself back here. Isn't it odd that what is so often associated with Satanism, occult worship, etc., is the word rite, R-I-T-E. Yet, as we just read, it originated with the church. I contend that the church never had it to begin with. They absconded with it from something that was much older, which is primarily paganism. But it is so, to use a cliche, brainwashed, you're blood washed. Everything I know. It's amazing because this triggers so many thoughts. And you start playing your life back on the VCR. You're going forward and backward, and you're going, okay. You're shown that blood heals. The first thing that you're introduced to the known God of this time of the world, and so they claim, is its presence with blood. And we know that there are manuscripts that predate the Bible by thousands and thousands of years. Yet, blood, always blood. It gets really interesting. Blood, as I was taught, and this is why, I contend that those of us who consider ourselves more occultists than anything else, we're just trying to find out that hidden knowledge. That's all. Don't need to make a religion of it, but they do. That all this time, sitting all those hours, Sundays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, camp meeting, Sunday through Saturday. Wow. And in every ritual, every ceremony, blood was mentioned. Again, washed in the blood of Jesus. Now, we have been so heavily hypnotized, indoctrinized, mesmerized into thinking that this is completely normal. When you break the law, I had a good friend of mine, he has passed on, but he was a detective, homicide. And he would tell me that he says, humans, they're strange animals. He saw the worst side of it. And when you get an arrest warrant and what have you, it's always talks about not only how the action, but blood. It's everywhere. And when you think about the fact that everything we do, think about the meat you eat. It had blood in it. That's why you have kosher meats. And, it's a certain way that when the animal is sacrificed, that it's bled out, the blood. This God that is the God of the world, God of the Abrahamic religions, is all about the blood, baby. First time he meets Abram walking across the mountains. Now, Abram was probably out there smoking a joint and just, kind of digging the thing. And, all of a sudden, this entity, this dark entity of that, comes to him and says, "Hey, I'm God." Abram goes, "Yeah, sure you are." He says, No, I'm going to tell you how I'm going to prove it. He says, "But it's going to require some action on your part." Okay, what's the action? Well, it's going to get a little messy. What do you mean by messy? Well, there's going to be blood. And you're going to have to walk through it. And as you walk through it, I'm going to come down and I'm going to accept that blood as an offering, and I'm going to consume it with fire. I mean, come on, folks. You got to sit time out and go, wait a minute. You're going to do what? And for why? It's crazy. But all through this indoctrination that you're conditioned to accept this. In fact, you're conditioned not even to think about it. You're just supposed to accept it as it is and move on. Well, we ain't moving on. We're going to say fixate it because it could be the very problem of humanity. Now, we're talking about the myths, the legends, the religions. We'll be dealing in some academia because academia focuses in on this. It's a strange thing about us so-called sapiens. We're going to get into that in a little bit. But as we learn in the story, when Solomon, and all of, the greatest wizard that is it what apparently ever was. And I love it. Before we wrap up with Abraham, remember now, he was taking his son, who we know was not, Isaac was not a kid. He was probably in his late 30s. Late 20s. Think about that. Blood. But getting back to Solomon, when he dedicated this power source, we're told to call it a temple, but it was a power source. It was a specially conditioned room that allowed this alien entity to come into this realm. I mean, if you've never read what the Holy of Holies was, what it was constructed of, why everything was covered in gold, and yeah, it gets into some heavy, heavy occultism. But getting back to Solomon again, when he dedicated this temple, this power beacon, this entity, I mean, they sacrificed over 10,000 bulls. They said that the blood ran out of the temple for 10 days. A hell of a lot of blood. And then, you know, you're conditioned as going forward that, hey, you can eat anything on this planet except certain animals, certain things. And you had to make sure how the blood was let out of it. But it gets even stranger when you get into this thing, because blood, the consumption of blood, using blood in a ceremony, in a rite, goes way back. I mean, you can talk about Dionysian, and we'll talk about this. It's amazing how it's been incorporated into society today in such a civil way. I mean, I feel like I'm having tea, you know, and I'm supposed to watch the etiquette and follow protocol. Well, Mr. Steiger, we don't talk of such things in public. Got you right on that, because as we read going forward, there's something going on. In fact, I didn't get into it as deep as I wanted with Rites because we had so much to cover. But this is, check this out. Yeah, Now this is in John 6:53, and Jesus said to them, I assure you most solemnly, I tell you, you cannot have any life in you unless you eat the flesh of the Son of Man and drink his blood. Unless you appropriate his life and the saving merits of his blood. He who feeds on my flesh and drinks my blood has eternal life, and I will raise him up from the dead on the last day. For my flesh is true and genuine food, and my blood is true and genuine drink. He who feeds on my flesh and drinks my blood dwells continually in me, and I, in like manner, continually in him. Now, theologians will teach you, Bible scholars will teach you that this is not literal. Okay. It's symbolic. Okay. It's spiritual. Okay. But regardless of how you want to position it, this is cannibalism. Straight up. I don't care if you want to look at it again, metaphorically, allegorically, theologically, ideologically, whatever it is. You know, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's most likely a duck. Now, that's some heavy stuff. I've referred to this book. In fact, yesterday, it's this book I was with Rite on. The beginning was the end. How man came into being through cannibalism. Intelligence can be eaten. And I thought the opening. This is an older book. I think it was last printed in 1971, but I have found it just to be. You read this, and folks, you just got to just shake your head and go, okay, something ain't right. But anyway, he wrote in here, This is Sin San Monastery in China, and it's written, "Man has discovered many things, but not himself. He gave to himself the name Homo sapiens. The justness of this self-baptism was not endorsed by any competent authority. So know yourselves and the truth concerning your origin. Alter your goals accordingly before it is too late." And as I have referred to this book many times, basically it goes through how us simians, the United States government, the Health and Human Services Administration, recognizes the term non-human simian. They will acknowledge that humans are simians. Okay. Getting weird, aren't we? Really getting into the weeds. So accordingly to the record, and this guy was just amazing. He said the author was born in 1914 in what was then Austria-Hungary, now Yugoslavia, which is no longer there. He has lived in South America. And anyway, in his research, it's very apparent that somewhere back there, and as simians do, we have the same traits. I mean, it's no mystery. You can study wild simians in the wild, non-human simians, and their cultures, their society, their hierarchy of position mimics ours, or we mimic them. I don't know, but somewhere along the line, in one of these battles, as the story goes, which he admits is just he's putting the evidence to what the story may have been like, that apparently, again, a small group of simians ate the brains of their fellow kind. And it was the eating of the brain and the blood caused something to happen in us. Enlightenment came as a result. We suddenly advanced in intelligence. Is there a connection? I don't know. There would seem to be. In the tribes of Israel, this is Yahweh's war. Yahweh is a war god. That's why the United States is a war nation. It's all connected. Anyway, if you read about how the tribalism worked with these people, it's very interesting, because blood, again, played a major role in this. And when you begin to look at the blood gods, in which the Christian, Jewish, I mean, it's no mystery here. It is a blood god. Everything is predicated on blood. And so you're conditioned to have a substitute, but a substitute is no different than a proxy. It still represents you or the thing. And so if you're conditioned that somehow I can consume blood and it's going to heal me, well, that gets kind of weird. But let me bring to your attention how weird this is not. The thing about blood cults, not that just Christianity has the market on it. Every cult, every other alternate religious belief, whether it's in a deity of any kind, where blood is used, or even used as a substitute metaphorically, allegorically, it doesn't matter. It is still the consumption. Remember, Jesus was the dude that said, hey, dude, you're looking at that chick over there, and man, is she well built. Almost gives you a boner right looking at her. Jesus said, if you even had that thought, you've already laid with her. Uh-oh, now you're choking on your words. So what are we saying here? If he says, eat my flesh, drink my blood, and unless you do, there ain't no life in you. You can't have it both ways. I mean, if you get a boner looking at the chick, and all of a sudden you're guilty by the law of it all, well, then what the hell's the difference over here? There isn't any. But as I was saying, let me go over here. So I think this is where I want to go. All right. So in Britannica talks about blood offerings. It says basic to both animal and human sacrifices. The Aztecs are known for it, the Incas, the Mayans, particularly. But the thing about it is, it's also very adapted into the early church. Is the recognition of blood as the sacred life force in man and beast. There's the clue right there. It is a life force. Throughout, though the sacrifice, through the return of the sacred life revealed in the victim, the God lives, and therefore man and nature live. The great potency of blood has been utilized through sacrifice for a number of purposes, i.e., earth fertility, purification, and expiation. The letting of blood, however, was neither the only nor the only mode of human and animal sacrifice. It's amazing to me that in today how Hollywood has turned it upside down. But when people think of Satan worshipers and witches and that kind of thing, they're always seeing some kind of animal sacrificed, if not a human. But yet they won't. You can't get through their cognitive reasoning and saying, "But wait a minute, your very religion is that dead religion." That's what you're built on, is the murder, the letting of blood, the shedding of blood, human blood. Says a wide variety of animals have served as sacrificial offerings. In ancient Greece and India, for example, oblations included a number of important domestic animals, such as the goat, ram, bull, ox, and horse. I mean, the animal kingdom's got to think, man, we got a bad deal in this. Moreover, in Greek religion, all edible birds, wild animals of the hunt, and fish were used. The same thing in the time of the first century, when the second supposedly temple was built. You couldn't go into the temple unless you had a live, living sacrifice. That's where the term scapegoat came from. Anyway, in ancient Judaism, the kind and number of animals for the various sacrifices were carefully stipulated. So, and read the book of Leviticus, it's right there. So that the offering might be acceptable and thus fully effective. This is magic, man. I mean, this is witchcraft on a high level. You're going into a temple where there's an altar where you're spilling blood, whether it's animal, human, whatever. I mean, to please a God. How you extrapolate that into this New Testament, then you're going to go, well, wait a minute, it's the same thing, kind of. Well, no, not exactly. What? Who borrowed from who? It said this sort of regulation is generally found in sacrificial cults. The offering must be appropriate either to the deity to whom or to the intention for which it is to be presented. Very often, the sacrificial species, animal or vegetable, was closely associated with the deity to whom it was offered as the deity's symbolic representation or even its incarnation. Thus, in the Vedic ritual, the goddess of night and morning received the milk of a black cow having a white calf. The bull of heaven, Indra, was offered a bull, and Surya, the sun god, was offered a white male goat. This is some wild stuff, because you can see, it's like, well, wait a minute, maybe Alexander the Great was in fact what he did still survive. He's the one who, Hellenized everything. And we can certainly see this as it goes forward. Similarly, ancient Greeks sacrificed black animals to the deities of the dark underworld, swift horses to the sun god Helios, pregnant sows, that's pigs, to the earth mother Demeter, the dog, guardian of the dead, to Hector, goddess of darkness. The Syrians sacrificed fish, regarded as the lord of the sea and guardian of the realm of the dead. And the goddess Astragastus, and ate the consecrated offering in a communion meal with the deity, sharing in the divine power. The power's in the blood. I mean, that's what it's saying. Goes on to say, an especially prominent sacrificial animals was the bull, or its counterparts, the boar and the ram, which, as the representation and embodiment of the cosmic power of fertility, was sacrificed to numerous fertility gods: Norse god Freyr, the Greek bull of the earth, Zeus, Chromosis, and the Indian bull of heaven, Indra. This gets us into weird stuff. Here's one. This is from The Guardian. Blood-drinking devil worshippers face life for ritual satanic killing. It goes on to say, in this case, this couple took it literally. Yeah. But the thing about it is, although in this case it was a crime, the thing about it is, we have many in power today that will admit, mostly off the record in private, that most of it participated in a blood ritual ceremony, a gathering. Now, what has gotten more attention was when the story of Megan Fox and this cat Machine Gun Kelly, they drink each other's blood. The story goes on to say, why they do it. Here's another one in Yahoo. We consume each other's blood on occasion for ritual purposes. Now, this has been going on for a long time. This article goes on to say, while it may turn your stomach, to see someone the sight of blood, I'm one of those, there's others that absolutely go right for it. Now, what's really interesting in all of this is that here's the same story. Megan Fox reveals the key to a successful relationship: drinking each other's blood, but for ritual purposes only. Now, it is rumored that, who was it? Was it Queen Elizabeth I? I believe she is known to have bathed in virgin's blood. Yeah. And they're not alone in this. The strange endurance of consuming human blood in our health. The thing about it is, when you read in the Bible, it says that there's healing in the blood. The practice of bloodletting, it goes through there. This one goes through exactly how you're supposed to, bizarrely, sanctify it, prepare it. And then finally, this is the travesty or taboo, drinking blood, in the Revelation of 17, verses 2 through 6. The woman of the beast is often assumed to drink blood, breaking a taboo of the ancient world. So that this paper argues that the imagery rather suggests a travesty of the Eucharist. Linguists, literary, and conceptual patterns in Revelation all rise to the possibility that her depiction holding a cup of blood is a travesty of the Eucharistic actions. Now, this is pretty bizarre when you think about what's going on with the Eucharist. We talked a little bit about it yesterday. Because they say the major objection to this is whether it might be acceptable to consider one Eucharistic action, the cup, as drinking blood. Well, that's what you do. Anyway, this article gets in deep into this one. But again, give me a second as I close these out. Talk amongst yourself. It's like, sure. And my point to this is, my time around those of power, there's always some form of ritual. Lion Rex says, maybe the blood ritual helped the reptilian gods to materialize and come to this realm. You know, anything is possible, yeah. The one thing that we all have to agree on, and I think you would see by the evidence, that this is not hyperbole, this is not some conspiracy, this is actuality. I mean, the blood cult, when I was growing up, there was this thing called having a blood brother. I had a blood brother, you know, where you actually cut your palm and then you put your hand together and you're blood brothers. Well, there's this, it's deep. Goes back thousands and thousands of years, this practice. Blood. What I didn't realize, and what I realize now, is that you're literally sharing the life force, the essence of that individual. The blood cult, the bloodletting, in Judaism, and in fact, in early Christianity, the women were to be separated while they were menstruating, their time of the month. And you were not to touch them. You could not have sexual intercourse. If you had sexual intercourse with a woman while she was menstruating, that was a big, no, that gets your ass killed. Because you're basically mixing your semen with contaminated dead blood. I mean, it's deep. Now, these occultic, paganistic ritual traditions that became part of Christianity is how you have the Puritan age. And again, to finish the thought out, that's why the woman was always put outside the village, the camp. Crazy stuff. Paul Joe says, indeed. Hey, it's all part of this. The reason why it was forbidden was that because you were consuming that blood. You were mixing your blood with that blood. I mean, yeah. All of this is centered around the blood worship. And whether it's religious or non-religious makes very little difference. The fact of the matter is that human beings, for it seems as long as we have existed in this current state, we have been drinkers of human blood of our own kind. We know that blood has a very distinct taste, as a coppery type of taste. And there's alchemy within that. Some say it's the aspect of the heavy metals that are in the blood that has this connectivity, this conduct that is what has this life force that we call our consciousness. I don't know how you would want to see this. As I said, it's everywhere. I was reminded, recently in having a steak, as you walk by there, they take steps to make sure that there is no blood. If you, for instance, consume hamburger has a lot of that. In fact, if you let the meat sit, you'll see that the blood continues to drain out of it. Any way you slice this and dice this, folks, humans consume blood. And indeed, it can be said again that blood is the most powerful element. Weird. It's like, and Nina, that's right. Blue bloods have more copper in it. Yeah. I don't have the other gene, but if I had the other gene, I would have been one of those individuals where I would have had a serious problem because of too much copper in my blood. It's something that they still monitor. I don't know why, it's like, okay, but yeah. So in fact, there is, Bonnie, what was that? I just read, my dear. I just read. That's all I got to say. Yeah, look at someone said mosquitoes love it too. You think about this. I got bit by a tick that subsequently gave me Lyme disease that subsequently turned into spinal meningitis. But yeah, blood. It's a known fact. Our military, the military industrial complex, has known, and it has been their strategies. If you can infect a foreign army with fleas, ticks, mosquitoes that would carry a pathogen, well, that would do more damage than having to spend men, resources, to fight them. It's the whole thing with, Plum Island. So it was said that the Nazis were working on. Well, yeah, we were too. In fact, we brought them over here. And of course, the story goes with, the story is that they got loose right there in Lyme, Connecticut. All about the blood. It's the blood. Our whole species is obsessed with the blood. What is the biggest trading blood commodity market today? These websites and these companies that collect when you send in your DNA. Yeah. The DNA is in the blood. They're going, okay. It's everywhere. And I just got to be honest, even the people that I see, in the New Age movement and the metaphysical, they don't want to talk about this kind of shit. But we have to. It could very well be why most of us, the vast majority of humans are under a curse. If they're not consuming blood in the ethereal, because people will say, well, Wayne, you don't have bodies over, you don't have blood. How do you know that? We have merely one form of what this life force looks like in animating these bodies. But if the life force is in the blood, then I contend that when the life force leaves the body, the life force is going back into the spirit, which then the spirit goes back into the spiritual realm. Are you telling me you're not carrying your blood type with you? Seems pretty damn important with the religions that I've studied and practice it in. The symbolicness of communion is the fact that I just read it to you. The cat that never said his name, that they assigned a name to, he said, you have to eat my flesh and drink my blood. Unless you do, there's no, my life force is not in you. Sounds like some Jedi crap to me. And it's true. I mean, you look at today. If you can control the blood of your population, don't tell me that there's not someone of a high occultic position that somehow got a degree, a master's, a doctoral degree, and is in that business. It's true. Hemoglobins. I mean, you think about everything that's in blood. Complex. Now, if you were an advanced intelligence and realized that you had the ability to actually somehow drain that essence, use that essence. Oh, yeah. I guess that's what we came up with vampires, right? I mean, that's the essence, right? Because there's this reciprocal trading, right? Vampires drink your blood, and then if they so choose to regurgitate their blood back into your blood, now you become one. Well, couldn't you say the same thing that you would do if you're taking communion? I mean, you're drinking somebody's blood. Paul just damned if you do and damned if you don't. It's some serious stuff, man. I mean, the whole thing of the sacrifice of Christ, the thing that don't send me the emails, people, someone just recently said, here, you are a heretic. Yeah, up yours with nose with a rubber hose too. I just happen to be honest enough with myself, which you can't be, apparently, and deal with the big adult questions. No, you like to stay with your book because your book tells you what to think. And you can't go outside with your book. You can't color outside the lines. And you hear me, you think that I'm some sort of demon-possessed individual. No, the only fucking thing I got is knowledge. And I took the time and the sacrifice to dig deep, facing my own fears, my own insecurities, my own doubts. But I like it, the fact that you're listening, because it tells me something about you. You wouldn't be listening to me or anyone in this community unless you have that little voice saying, what he's saying might be true. We don't want to talk about that. My. Oh, Jeanette says, color outside the lines. It's where you get creative when you're outside the lines, It's like, that's unclaimed space. It's like, okay, I can do anything I want with it. So I got a couple of other things. And by the way, tomorrow, for Naked Philosophers Friday, we're going to be talking about something that, again, I bet you haven't heard much about. Do you know, little teaser here, that there are, in certain cities and in certain agencies, law enforcement officers that only deal with occult crimes? Stay tuned on that one. Anyway, so Another exhibit that I have, getting back to that topic of cannibalism, the Eucharist, it's interesting because in this paper, and by the way, it's a very quick read, but whoa. So you begin to learn how the narrative of cannibalism was metamorphosized, if that's even a word, into virtually every religious, non-religious beliefs. Humans are cannibals. It's just a fact. And in the direst of situations, we know that humans will revert to cannibalism. I think one of the most modern stories that I remember was Titus. When Titus surrounded Jerusalem, laid siege to Jerusalem back in the year 69 AD, it is said that he opened the gates into the city, and the Romans had built this huge other wall, and they opened the temple. Well, for the Jewish people of that time, that was a very big deal because Titus had closed it. So Jerusalem swelled to, they said they estimate over 2 to potentially 3 million people. And then Titus had the gates closed. And the story goes on to say that in the end, that's what happened. Then, and you think about this, but there is also stories throughout the Old Testament of cannibalism. And in this paper here, it says, beyond the archaeological and anthropological disputes over evidence indicating that people might have been eating one another since prehistoric times, cannibalism has been one of those primary images, desires, and fears on which both subjectivity and culture are based. Powerful narrations and images of man-eating men have been presented for centuries across many cultures and cultural traditions, myth, tales, and artistic works. As a frequently used cultural metaphor, cannibalism constitutes a way to make sense of others and of ourselves as well. It is a trope of that embodies the fear of the disillusionment of identity, and conversely, it is a model of incorporation of difference. Cannibalism is not a neutral term denoting man-eaters. It is a discursive construction that emerges as a colonial metaphor for the other during the invasion and conquest of the New World. And it's really odd. Like I said, time that is not enough allows here, but if you want this one, wow. It seems that they've done a pretty good job of sanitizing history, particularly where these type of taboo topics, because no one wants to think about this stuff. But yet, as I was looking at some of the crimes, it's amazing how, and maybe it's just because they're being reported more, that crimes of cannibalism. One recently was, I mean, in some of it completely befuddles the imagination that humans do this, but come to find out, we've been doing this. And it goes in and talks about how the word came about. And it says, this is so weird. Certainly, cannibalism has historically been the cornerstone of colonialism and the very idea of savagery and civilization. Nevertheless, from the European versions of a monstrous and savage new world to the post-colonial and postmodern narratives and contemporary culture production, the metaphor of cannibalism has been not just a paradigm of otherness, but also a trope of self-recognition and a central concept in the very definition of Latin American entities forged within the conflicts of colonial. Now, this is interesting because there's two papers here I want to work on. So you think about the New World, right? Well, the thing that really comes up and is, particularly with the Spaniards, what they found was the Aztecs. And this was part of their culture. It had been going on for thousands of years. Aztecs are primarily known for their human sacrifice, the cannibalism, the drinking of the blood of their sacrificial victims and whatever. And yet, at the same time, you cannot argue that the advanced level of technology and overall intelligence was higher with the Aztecs than it was primarily with the white Europeans. Is there again a connection with the fact that, is it true that, is there an advance in our species? And in this case, eating the brains. Now, obviously, that is horrible. It's beyond most of our ability to even think. However, with other tribes and in other cultures, it's also, you have to think, a child is conditioned to see this type of thing going on. When they become of young adulthood, they're going to carry on the same tradition. And anyway, this is an article dealing with this. That the Aztec gods sacrificed themselves for life on earth to exist. So the Aztec people felt a great sense of debt to their gods for their sacrifice. So this is really interesting because it says the indigenous text repeatedly refers to ritual ceremonies in which humans, animals, and plants were killed as the neklia, or adult debt payments. The idea behind the term and a neklia was that the gods suffered and died, often killing each other during mythic times in order that human, plant, and animal life that it could be created. And B, humans must now pay that debt back to the gods in ritual killings designed to regenerate the energy that resides in the object, that's the person, the animal, or the plant, or thing being killed, and transmit that energy to the gods. That sums up the whole thing right here. Now, the question is, did the Aztecs, and I see that time is starting to get away here. We'll get into it another time. But hey, Brandon, how are you? Working at the gym. Way to go, buddy. Is the fact that the Aztecs, did their gods teach them this? Because I find a correlation all the way back to the Sumerians and the myths, the legends of what Enki Enlil, their mother, Niazdag, I think I got that right, shedding of blood, consumption of blood. It's very weird. It even gets stranger. Now, I know this one's where people are going to go, what? The way humans reproduce is pretty bizarre. The fact that, it starts with the seed and the egg, and then the egg begins to grow. Well, our total incubation time, which it is, we're consuming blood of the host, the female, the mom. Fact, birth is a pretty bloody thing. The consuming of blood. And then when you begin to put it all into perspective of how this blood, and blood is just not what the red stuff that we see. It's deeper than that. You can separate blood. I mean, all of us, in your biology 101, get a centrifuge machine. You can separate the red blood corpuscles from the white. Get plasma. Isn't it interesting? Plasma representing, we see it in the heavens and of our sun, plasma, but then yet you get the same thing when you divide the blood. Plasma, energy, life force. Now, if you're a powerful witch, powerful wizard, minister, pope, whatever, you begin to know some of these things. And then you got to look at the psychic straw. And if you realize that this energy, this power is there, well, then you get the old proverbial, like I said, psychic straw, and you start drinking right from your congregation or your coven, whatever you want. The drinking of blood, the rite of drinking of blood. As I did the video, nearly, 5 years ago, the birthright passage. It's a passage of blood. It's everywhere. It's like, holy crap, blood is everywhere. But again, like the song said, there is power, powerful, working power, wonderful working power in the blood. Come on, sing along. Y'all know what I'm saying. Copeland is drinking blood. Yeah, it's listen. And do you, if you really want to get into this and see the power I'm talking about, go to a church that does communion. Just sit back. And it's weird because you do this voluntarily. No one's forcing you to drink this blood. No one's forcing you to eat the flesh. You got up and did it voluntarily, willingly. And then as you're drinking this blood, you're told to think about as it's now immersed into your body, and it brings healing power. Holy shit, Batman. That's spell work. I don't know if it's a right-hand path, left-hand path, white, black, I don't know. But that is some powerful spell work, I'm telling you. While people will give you their money. So, and of course, everybody here is Rocky. So, anyway, folks, stimulating conversation, to say the least. It's weird. And if you've listened to this, thank you. Thank you for hitting the like button. Think about it. As you go throughout your day, just think about this. It's everywhere. When you give an oath, it's in many cases, it's called a blood oath. Why? Bonnie says it's a message for the meat eaters. What's that, Brandon? Our communion at City Church was always grape juice and a cracker. Yeah, but it's like I said earlier, it's still the same thing. Brandon, you know this. As I said, Jesus said, if you look upon a woman and lust for her in your heart, then you have already you know, had sex, had coitus. Well, it's you can't have one way and not the other way. So even if it's grape juice or a cracker, it's still blood, and you're still eating flesh. We did it. It's not, man. So thank you, everybody. Hey, Elderberry, Mary wins. Much love to you. Danny, what's up? Yeah, purification. Yeah, and it's weird, isn't it? I mean, that's what Queen Elizabeth did, the very first one. And she bathed herself thinking that bathing in the blood of a human being, yeah, I don't think so. All right, folks, this has been fun. I hope you've had fun with it too. And leave your comments. Tell me what you think. Is this so off base? And if it is, show me how it's different. Show me, I'd love to hear your point of view, because it's something that is a part of us. It's a part of every aspect of war. War is all about the shedding of blood. The story of the earth, how she reviles with having to drink the blood of humans. We shed our blood into the ground. It just as this goes. Hey, Chloe. So, oh, Brandon, thank you, brother. Much love to you. Ever since Claudia, yeah. Dr. Albers, much love, yeah. All right, folks, have fun with it. Again, see you tomorrow. Going to be talking about occultic crimes and how law enforcement takes this serious, and it's on the increase. Hey, Lost in Space. Much love. Gilbert, how you doing, brother? The tribal crazies are here. Scotty Boy and Susan and Eric and Kitty, all the rest of you. Thank you. Thank you all. You put a smile on my face. That's all I got to say. All right. Until we see